I believe we're live. Hope. We'll see. Can everyone see me at the moment?
Well, I can.
Awesome. Okay. So let's see if the chat can actually see us. I don't want to actually start before the chat says anything. I hope.
Well, I could enter into the chat if that would help.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. See if. Oh, you can start, man. Okay, awesome. People can see me. Great. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Indie Dev Chat episode 25. I don't know how it's like a quarter of 100, but it is. As you can see, I'm on my own in this screen, but don't worry, we'll be joined by Rob in just a second. But yeah, welcome to the Indie Dev Chat. And today we're going to be talking to Rob Lang, who is a great developer on YouTube. And yeah, hopefully we'll get talking about some really cool stuff today. And yeah, if you enjoy, make sure that you subscribe and like. We're about 30 subscribers away from 2,000, so you know, subscribers would be appreciated. And yeah, we'll pass it on to see what Rob has to say for. Wait, that sounds like a trial. All right, here he is. All right,
Hello,
would you like to introduce
everybody.
yourself?
Hi, I'm Rob Lang, and I am making a game called Clumper. And you can probably find my YouTube channel down in the description. Probably.
They can. Yeah, they can. Luckily.
Fantastic. Hi, everybody. I can see that the chat has the usual suspects in it. Thanks for coming along.
There's a lot of usual suspects each time, and it is quite strange today, isn't it? Because obviously you're a usual suspect, and suddenly you are on the show.
Yeah, I'm now in the firing line.
People can fire questions at you rather than the other way around.
Yeah, I'm not so happy with that. Maybe I'll just ask my own favourite ones, because I have my list, so I'll just run down the ones that I like.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Awesome. So yeah, we're going to be talking about a couple of really cool topics today that Rob has picked out. Because I don't have the ability to come up with 3 topics per video anymore. Like right at the start, I could get away with it, but now it's like I can't think of 3 unique topics. So I just get the guest to. I'll just like pick 3 things you like to talk about, and then boom, it usually works. But yes, welcome everyone. I don't know. Would you like to sort of explain some of the work that you do?
Cool. So yeah, so a little bit about myself. I'm 44, which is definitely old enough to be your dad. And
My dad's
not that I am.
44.
I live in the southern parts of England. I'm from London originally, that big morass of conurbation. And during the day, I am a lead web developer and have been building websites since 1996 and commercially since, I think my first one I sold was 2000. And my first game that I made was in 1986, where you'd get a magazine and you'd copy the code out of a magazine for the Sinclair Spectrum 128K, which is how much RAM it had.
Oh, wow.
And it was a vertical scroller, and it was rubbish. And I didn't really finish it because no one finishes their first game.
Yeah.
And since then, I've dabbled in lots of different things, games-wise. We had to make them as part of university projects, and I made a web game, which my friends and I played, where you... it's quite difficult to explain, but I'll just say it's a web game where you have pawns and you move them around a grid, pretty much.
Right.
And then I've written a free role-playing game called iCar, which you can download. It's a pencil and paper one. It's dice and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And when my second child was born, I had to stop role-playing because there just isn't really the time where I can get an evening with friends. You know how it is, which is fair enough. It's not a complaint. It's just a moving on.
Yeah.
Other games that I've written, I wrote something called Cloudship Atlantis, which didn't go very far because it wasn't very fun, so I canned it. And then I've been recently making Clomper, which is a co-op exploration game where you and friends lay pipes inside this clomping machine to go across a landscape. And at the moment, the bit I'm working on is making the landscape more interesting than just a few randomly placed blocks.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much me. I'm here to mostly talk about, I think the two subjects, if I remember right, that we were going to go for were how do you find time to do anything when you've got a full-time job, family, and all of that sort of stuff, or whatever your commitments are. And we were going to hopefully get onto code as a craft, which is something I'm very keen on explaining to people. So,
go on.
So you're a busy man, Matt.
Yeah.
How do you keep working on your school stuff, on your family engagements? How do you do that?
Right, yeah. I've never been asked questions. What's going on? No. Well, basically, sort of depends, because it sort of depends on the timetable for school, right? You know, because things change a lot. I go to college 3 days a week, so I have quite a lot of time for everything else, which is really lucky. But I usually structure it around that. On Wednesdays, all the way to Sundays, I work on my games, and then Mondays and Tuesdays, I take the days off because college is tiring on those days for some reason. But yeah, for family, I mean, my parents tell me, hey, we're going out, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I put the code down, and then there you go.
Because we have a similar problem in that way, because you don't really have full control over your time. Your time is, you really are taking the time of the day and then stealing the snatches out of that time.
Yeah.
Aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, go on.
Go ahead. That's quite difficult. That's quite difficult to deal with, because if you're not in command of if there'll be many people in the chat, I'm sure, have pretty good control over their time one way or another, and then there'll be others that have no control, and they're both problems in a sense, because if you have full control over your time, it's very easy for you to become demotivated because there's no one else putting strictures on. And I can see we've got Tom Wayland in the chat, and he's a gentleman who has spoken at length on his channel on how he becomes demotivated. And I'm calling you out, Tom, because I know this is something you've talked about a lot. So there's a person who doesn't really have any other strictures on his time except himself, and yet it can be very difficult to pin yourself down and keep yourself organized. And hopefully we're going to talk about a few ways in which you can do that. Yeah. So how do you keep yourself organized then, Matt?
So I mean, previously I actually had I used Trello as a schedule, but then I realized that didn't really work out very well. It felt a bit too pushed. I think you have to be lenient with yourself in as many ways as you possibly can to make it feel like you're not pushing yourself to do something. And in that way, I suppose I just sort of I usually get post-it notes for when I'm working. I get a bunch of post-it notes. I write out 3 things I want to do in that day. You know, I want to do a boss fight, attack, and then I want to do a new enemy. I don't know why you'd work on 2 implementations in a day, but you know, I'll have 3 things. I'll put them on my monitor so I can always see them. It's very hard to miss things that are on your monitor. I put them right at the bottom, and then the best part about it is when I'm done with that task, I peel off the post-it note, and then I just crumple it up and I throw it away. It's the most rewarding experience when it comes to game development, because with Trello, we do use Trello because we work in a team. It's a lot easier to structure it and everything. But honestly, when it comes to self-motivation, it really motivates me because it's a lot more. It's like game feel, right? When you're making a game, you want to make the game have a lot of feedback and stuff. It's sort of like the same thing, but with using sticky notes, and that is your feedback when you crumple it up. It's puts a lot of endorphins. I think that's what the word is. I don't know.
You get an experience, physical experience.
Yeah,
completely.
And I think
I get that. Definitely.
I think it's a really good idea to actually go away from the digital stuff and into the physical world, and keeping yourself also in the physical world at the same time. because I feel like when you're when you're engrossed into game development, you're completely looking at just two screens or one screen, and that's all you're doing. But like, if you can keep yourself in the physical world, not only does it keep you like, so you don't go crazy, it also makes you sort of have a bit more of a connection with, the real world rather than just being trapped in this one sort of screen. Because I think that's something that I struggled with quite a lot. I felt like I was constricted, but like again, you got to be lenient with yourself, because if you're not lenient, then that's when the problems set in. Because with the commitments that you do already have, because everyone has commitments, right? Like everyone. So what you when you have all those commitments, it's very difficult to like, you can't really change those commitments. It's that's why they're commitments. So it's good to, if you can have any leniency, it's really helpful, because you feel like you're not like forcing yourself to do anything, but you're driving yourself to do it.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Don't, when you on the subject of being in the physical world, when you design things, do you tend to use pencil and paper, or
I
do you go straight in?
um so actually that's a good question. I previously, I did use paper. I've got like my first ever notes for my game in that cupboard. Like it's like crusty paper. It's crazy, but it is really cool. And I really want to. I feel like it's sort of changed. Like I used to use paper, but then I think it depends on where I am really, because game development is on my mind quite a lot when I'm out and about. So when I'm out, I always take like a little notebook if I can, and I'll jot some things down. But if I'm at home and I'm on the computer, then usually there's something called Miro. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. It's like a digital whiteboard application. It's really helpful. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like if I'll probably get a whiteboard. I see people in the chat saying a physical whiteboard would probably be
Yeah,
pretty good, and but I don't really know where I'd put it. I mean, my room my room needs a bit of like a change around again, but I feel like a whiteboard would be pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I think it's it's sort of it's sort of one of those things that you have to find yourself with. Like you can't. I don't think you can really grab it from someone else. You have to find your own workflow. Like I think that's the key thing. Like there's a lot of people out there that just sort of think that they have to follow like a YouTuber or someone else that they've seen doing it, because maybe they've made it successful. But like, everyone's made success in a different way. So rather than copying, you can take their style and sort of like subvert that and try and make your own sort of thing. Because it's very, I love having my own way of doing things. I think everyone does that. Like when
yeah,
you're an indie developer, especially, you love having, if you're independent, you like doing your own sort of stuff. So why not make it so you literally do your own sort of workflow, because you have the resources to do it.
absolutely, absolutely. So on the subject of workflow, I think this is where we can start talking about motivation and
Mm,
how you get stuff done. So everything that I do is done between the hours of 6:15 and 8 in the morning.
right.
So that's pretty much all the time that I have. By the time I get to this time of day, my brain's normally rotten, and I've got
Yeah.
a 3-year-old climbing up, pulling my beard, forcing me to watch Frozen for the 15,000th time, which actually is a pretty good film, so I don't mind too much. I quite enjoy Frozen, quite happily watch that.
Well, that's good.
So, so the amount of time I have is very, very squeezed, and that's why I talk like this in my videos, because I'm trying not to wake anyone else up in the house. So there's the secret behind my
Ah.
quiet voice, because it's a it's at 6:15. So first of all, there's three pieces I think of this. There's first of all organization,
Mm,
deadlines, and discipline.
right.
And discipline, when people talk about discipline, it's about, oh no, it's just like being in the army. No, 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 not like that. And I'll explain why. But organization wise, I think you've got a lot of the good stuff down. So break up your tasks into smallest chunks possible,
Yeah.
and then track them in a way that feels good to you. Some people use Trello, use post-it notes. There are loads of other apps that do similar things. I keep mine on GitHub projects because I like to keep my code close to the actual tasks that
Mm.
they're in. And the reason for that
I've
is
never even heard of, well, I've heard of it obviously, but I don't think I've even seen GitHub projects. Like, is it a
quite
good,
shallow.
is it a good platform?
Yes. And the reason for it is that if you tie your code close to your tasks, then when you're looking back through your code and you've got the blame thrower out, have you heard the
Oh,
phrase blame thrower
yeah, yeah,
before? It's where you try and blame someone for some dreadful code. And of course, as an indie, it's normally your own anyway.
yeah.
But either way, you look at the code, and in Git particularly, because everyone in the chat is using source code control, aren't they? Of course you are. Good. You're all gonna if you're not, then we need to have words. Use source control. But you look at the source control and you look at the history to try and find out why that line was changed. Now you might get lucky and you might see a commit comment that's kind of useful, but
Mm.
quite often that's not good enough.
Yeah.
Quite often you want it to be linked to the piece of work that it's associated with.
Mm.
And if you're using GitHub, you can use issues, which are normally for bugs, and also you can use projects, which are the project side is really for organizing issues, grouping them together. It's pretty cool. It's free if you're using GitHub anyway, but it's a lot like Trello. The
Right.
joy of it is that when you commit code, you can move the tickets automatically from doing to done. So you don't have to do any of that kind of remembering to drag tickets across. So there's loads of cool stuff that it can do. I might have done a video on it, but I can't remember. Honestly, I've got 30. I can't remember all my videos.
Yeah.
Yeah. So decomposing your tasks is important. Defining the tasks well up front is really important. If you just have a task that says boss, okay,
Yeah.
that's okay, it's not bad, but if you know it's a snake boss and it's going to
Put
chase
snake
you across the
boss.
level,
And then put a little comment underneath it, you know.
just enough to define it so that
Yeah.
when you pick the task up, there's no mental jump to do.
Mm.
You can go right on it. You don't need an essay necessarily. I mean, maybe you've got a design document elsewhere that it references. That's cool, but the task itself should be kind of simple and easy. Just grab it, get on. Next thing to do is track your task, which sounds like you do too. Know what's coming up, know what you're doing now, and then get rid of it when it's gone. Don't leave them hanging around. So that post-it note, you might think, oh, I'll reuse it and add the next feature on. No, clear that post-it note, make a new one. And that's so that you just keep feeling like you're making progress, because it is a mountain making a game.
Oh,
Even
it is,
if it's a jam, it's an enormous amount of work. And then I'll just get to the end of organization. The next thing on tasks is variety. So try and organize your tasks so you're not just doing coding all the time and then do a bit of coding, bit of graphics, bit of sound, break it up a bit, and that's how you keep yourself interested. So that's my organization side. That's the first part of keeping yourself motivated, making sure your tasks aren't going to overwhelm you. So how does that sound? Does that sound reasonable? Sounds like you're doing a lot of that already.
Yeah, I think that's sort of something that as a skill you start picking up a lot more as I said, when you're developing your own workflow, you start sort of getting to know yourself. But also I think in a bigger sort of sense, like, you don't know what's coming in the next 2 months or 3 months, right? So in my opinion, like, get that like sort of project management stuff so that it's good enough for not only you to read, but for everyone to read. And I think especially for code as well, like, put comments in, because not only does that help you, it helps anyone that could potentially come onto your project, because you never know what's going to happen. You could be working solo at the start of the project, and then a year later you could have a team of 4. You really don't know. So making sure that everything makes sense to not only you but people that aren't yet in there but could be, I think that's vital to actually having an organized project.
Yeah, and I'll come back to comments in code because I have problems with them.
Right. Yeah.
But we'll come when we talk about code as a craft a bit later. I think we should come back to that, because yeah, I'm not sure they're as useful as
Yeah,
often
no,
people
I
feel
mean,
they are.
I yeah, we'll get back to it later,
We'll get
but
back to it. We'll get
yes,
back to it.
I do agree with you.
It's not a holy war or anything. I'm not going to storm off if you demand to write comments in your code. Um, so so on the terms of motivation, the next bit is deadlines.
Yeah,
So your deadlines should be super short. You set yourself 3 things in a day. That's great. A day-long deadline is brilliant. A couple of days. Mine tend to be about a week, but only
yeah,
because I'm doing
yeah.
hour
You're
and a
only
half,
doing an
2 hour
hour and a half.
batches.
Yeah, exactly.
Not much you can do in that amount of
Yeah,
time,
no.
but chip away. Um, so you should have a very small number of jobs in that time. Keep a variety if you can, but that's often not possible. And then try and do at least one thing each day. So I try and do the tiniest thing every single day. So it might be a drawing in my notebook.
Hmm.
It could be just writing a little bit of backstory,
Yeah,
just something every day. If I'm feeling like I just cannot be bothered to open Unity, just do something. You may never use it, but it just means the momentum is retained.
yeah,
And it could be at the dining table. I don't know what your parents would say about that, but still, "Oh, what are
yeah.
you doing? What are you drawing?"
I'm
But
just
to try,
drawing the food.
just
What?
drawing the food. Just try and do something creative and
Yeah.
just keep that motivation going. And you'll find that the slumps. Um, and also, as you say, forgive yourself. If
Hmm.
you miss a deadline, then just forgive yourself. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Look at the reasons. Go, yeah, largely out of my control, and move on.
Hmm.
And a good reason to forgive yourself is mental health. If you're feeling like you're struggling, then that's okay. It's okay to struggle. Say you're struggling. We've all had times where we've struggled. Well,
Yeah.
that's okay. Forgive yourself and then move on. And the next day, try and just do a little thing
Yeah.
and then keep that going.
Yeah.
So that's for deadlines, really. I mean, at work, we use very different sorts of things for deadlines because they're driven by very external factors.
Right.
So that's a different state of affairs if you're
Yeah.
working
Yeah.
for a company. But if you're an indie dev, you have a little bit more control over your deadlines.
Hmm.
So how's that sounding so far? What about in the chat? Is there anything? So I'm going to read one out if that's a
Yeah.
bit cheeky.
Go for it.
Casual Dutchman says, "What should I do if I'm the cause for me missing my own deadline?" If you're an indie dev, mate, you're always the cause for you
Yeah.
missing your own deadline. But the cause may be not you missing it, but the fact that you set one that was a bit hardcore. I mean, if you set yourself a really mean deadline, you're setting yourself up for a fail. You won't necessarily know that at first because you're new to setting deadlines. Well, that's okay too. No one really knows their pace of coding until they've done a lot of it. And even now, I know I'm fast in some areas, but I wouldn't be able to guess how long it's going to take me to do other
Yeah.
things,
Yeah. Yeah.
particularly with
Exactly.
URP.
Yeah.
So that's what if you're lazy, Casual Dutchman, then you're lazy for a very good reason. If you feel like you're lazy, it's because your body, your whole mental state is telling you to slow down, take some time for yourself, and then book that in. And that's a discipline point, really. Being lazy does not mean you're undisciplined.
No.
So discipline is really about forming good habits, and those can be things like getting up early, going to bed early, getting things ready for the morning the night before. That's what I always do.
Hmm.
So when you get up, you don't have to think about where your clean t-shirt is. It's right there. And you can do things like take regular breaks, 50 minutes at the keyboard, 10 minutes away. I do this when I pair program at work. That's something that we try and force in. And use distraction-free modes in your browser if that helps, and plan in nice things. So say this Saturday, not going to do any dev. I might do a drawing to do my one little thing, but then I'm just going to have a nice day. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go shopping. Not that we do that anymore. I'm going to go and do something else. I'm going to socially distance and have some fun. So I'm just going to blow the entire day playing Fallout 76, if that's your flavor. So yeah, those are some simple things. Another thing I like to do at the end of every coding session, I like to have I stop 10 minutes early and I sort out the thing that I'm going to start with the next day. So at the end of one day,
I agree with that one. I do the same with all the work that I do. I try and make it so I start off something and I don't finish it until the next day. I think that is one. If I was to give a piece of feedback and it had to be one, that would probably be one of them, because I think it's a very, very valuable valuable skill to acquire, because it takes a while to even get to that point and know your own abilities. That is also a really key point about the whole discipline, really, is knowing your abilities, because
Right.
you've got to
Yeah,
know.
you're absolutely right, and that's practice. I'm married to a therapist,
Hmm.
and she would say you've got to listen to yourself.
Yeah.
And I would make a terrible therapist because I'm I'm kind of a hard nose at work. I'm coming across really nice,
Hmm.
but at work I'm a bit like, fix it.
Yeah.
Is it fixed yet? Fix it. And they go, oh, it's a difficult thing. Yeah, but you're a developer. Fix it. It's just code. So, but if under stress and strain, I think the best thing to do is just listen to yourself, because it's your body, it's your mind telling you that it's time to chill out, take a break, be kind to yourself, and that's really very important.
Yeah.
But I do try and finish 10 minutes early, set up a task for the next morning, because it's 6:15 when I hit the keyboard. I'm barely awake. I sit there and I just need something to get started. Sometimes it's fun. It can't always be that way, but I like it to be. And then you're rolling at that point. And then once you've done your first thing of the day, then it's easy to do all the others.
Mm.
And then I hope to get to the point where I'm looking at the watch going, kid's got to get to school, or I've got to start work shortly, and I'm fighting. I really want to finish the thing. Well, that's sometimes time to stop, write down what you were doing, so you can pick up the next day.
Yeah.
So that's how I keep motivated, even though I'm doing this an hour and 45, 2 hours a day before anyone's up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I I would I agree with the whole making sure that your whole momentum it keeps up, because there was a video. I've mentioned this on the podcast before. There was a video. I can't remember who it was by now, but it was basically saying don't have a 0 day, right?
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
if you have a 0 day, you're gonna roll back down the hill, and then you're gonna have to restart the hill and roll up the hill again. Like, I think he used like a boulder analogy, like you're pushing a boulder up a hill, and then if there's a 0 day and you haven't got enough force against that boulder, then the boulder's gonna tumble you back down, and then you're gonna have to get back into the rhythm again, because it. Also, when you have a day like that, it's very difficult to get to get back up the hill. Oh, there you go. You see, yeah, exactly. Tons of fun. You said it exactly right. Yeah, Lost Relic. That was the one.
Lost Relic. That's it.
That video stuck with me so well. But yeah, it's just so important that you don't do nothing, because if you do nothing, then you're gonna start that goes into the discipline area, doesn't it? Really, like, if you do nothing, then how long will it be until you do something? Like, don't let yourself wait until you do something. Like, try and get yourself back into it and actually, doing
But
something.
be easy on yourself, though. So if you
Yes.
find yourself a few days where you've got nothing done, that's okay.
Yeah.
Look at why that might be. It might be that you've not slept well, or you've just got loads of stuff going on, or you're living in a global pandemic, and that's kind of hard to have in the news
Yeah.
every day. Or you might be living in a place where the whole world is literally on fire. So give yourself a break. Look at why that might be. And go, well, fair enough. This is not easy. Life is hard, no matter how lucky one might be. So that's cool. Try and do a little thing, and then get the ball rolling back up the hill.
Yeah.
I think I saw exactly the same video. Try and have no 0 days. It's a great bit of advice.
Mhm.
So do we want to take some questions from the chat for the moment?
We
or
can
would
do,
we-
yes.
Before we talk about Code as a Craft, I mean, they're all having such a lovely time. It would be sad to interrupt them. I almost miss it, not being in the chat.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's Dr. Almonds. Thank you. It's Doctor. 8 years I went to university. 8 long
Favorite thing
years.
you have done on Clomper?
Sorry, what was the question?
Favorite thing you have done on Clomper?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say the graphics and getting the pipes laid for the first time, which was before I started YouTube.
Right.
So that would have been about a year ago when I first realized that actually it's not that hard and I could do it. For a long time I've thought, oh no, I can't, this is not my field. I can't do this, which is daft because I've been building 3D models since I was 14. I've been coding C# since C# 1.0 or 1.1 maybe. So that's what, 2004.
Yeah.
So it's not like these things are unfamiliar to me. I think it just had it in my mind that this was something other people like yourself, imbued with game dev greatness, and it wasn't really quite for me. And I should stay with the pen and paper role-playing games, and that's where I was best at.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just stopped moaning and just got on with it. So I'd say to my coworkers, fix it.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Someone asked, "How are you, my friend?"
I'm well today. Thank you very much. I'm delighted. I've been excited for this all day.
So have I, actually.
A child before Christmas.
Oh wow, that's an honor. It's quite a good thing. I love this podcast. It's so fun having someone new each week.
Yeah, it's great. I've enjoyed your guests. They've been brilliant.
Yeah.
So I've got another question for you. So if I said you code as a craft,
right,
code craft, what does that mean to you?
Ooh. When I think of that, I'm thinking the immediate thought that comes to mind is like not only the structure of your code, but also like actually I guess no, structure of my code is how I like perceive code as a craft.
That's a great answer. And a lot of it is to do with that. I wonder what people down in the chat think of code as a craft. Witchcraft? Well, maybe Tom, some of your code is definitely witchcraft. I've not seen it, but I've seen your tutorial videos on networking, and they come pretty much close to magic from my point of view. So it's the same difference. Code can be read without summaries. That's great, Casual Dutchman. That's a good shout. The way things are put together, how they work. Yeah. I think most people have got a sense of what it is, and there isn't a good definition.
Yeah.
If you go online, you'll find lots of books. There was a seminal book written in 2008 by a chap called Robert Martin. He calls himself Uncle Bob, which is a bit creepy, and the book has lots of great points in it, but there are many others. I think he was the first one to write a book that was kind of easily digestible.
Right.
But it is a bit long in the tooth now. So would I recommend it? Possibly not. I think you'll find the principles elsewhere. But the core idea is this: you can get a feature to work by just writing code.
Yeah.
But it won't necessarily be good code.
Yes.
Code craft is really about going from the point at which it's working to the point at which it's good. And there are lots of ways of looking at this. So I'm going to do this with some examples. Let's say that you get a bug. So Matt, when you get a bug and you have no idea how to fix it, what's the first thing you do?
Right, no. It sort of depends on the type of bug, really. I think usually I get into this thinking state and then I overthink. But you know, that's aside from the overthinking part. You know, I just think about the problem mentally and think about it, and I sort of structure it as like step by steps of how I can like find the solution. Like for example, for me, I would sort of think of multiple solutions and then I'll go through those solutions each time until it hopefully works, you know.
At what point do you hit Google? And I don't mean punch them.
Yeah, well, no, I've done that before. No. I I'll probably say I'll start going onto Google after 2 or 3 tries.
Cool.
I give myself as much tries as I can so I can improve myself, because that's the best way of improving.
Sure.
And
And
that's
I
that's
think there's
also
value in that.
mm,
I think there's value in that. I think another way of doing it, many people will see this and think, well, the first thing you do is you go to Google and you'll land on a question in Stack Overflow, which will quite often have precisely the thing that you're asking and 5 or 6 solutions that have been upvoted by the community, and therefore you find the best one.
yeah,
And quite often you can lift that code straight out and plonk it in, and it just works.
yeah,
And that's a great feeling because it's like, haha, like you've defeated it with your powers of Google.
yeah. But the
And
question is,
I,
do you understand it as well?
but do you understand it? Absolutely. So now the context here that is important. If you're writing code for yourself and their deadlines are not a thing, and you've got all the time in the world, then I would welcome you to go and read off around that solution and understand every line until you really got a feeling for it. However, if you are coding on someone else's dime, or if you're running against a very tight deadline and it just works, then I would say that the immediate step is to make sure it's tested properly, and then it's fine to send it out there because you're
Yeah,
coding on someone else's dime. You can't spend 3 hours understanding it. But then what makes it a craft is you write it down and go, there's a thing that I just copied and pasted. I'm going to go and find out what that is once it's out the door. So it's gone out, everyone's happy, then find out. Take the time and effort to learn. And that's what makes it a craft, is this constant state of improvement
yeah,
and constantly looking at your code and going, is there a better way? And there are a few little things that people can do to help that. But that's the core idea, that you're constantly improving. And even it doesn't matter how long you've been coding for, you keep having to do this. You can't possibly know every part of every framework.
yeah,
Sure, there are things that are familiar, but it's impossible to know because the languages move on at
yeah,
the speed at
exactly.
which you're beginning to learn them. So that's why I say just constant improvement, and you'll be a code crafter.
Right.
So you would treat it as a craft. So that's really important. So all the coders, and I'm sorry for the people who do art, I'm sure daily practice is much the same thing.
Yeah,
Decomposing other people's art to understand how they built things, exactly the same thing. But for code as a craft, so we all have to touch it, try and go deeper. And that's really where craft comes in. And in the books, they got a whole load of stuff. And we'll come on to comments now.
yeah,
Because one of the core ideas of what makes good code is, can you read it straight off the page?
yeah.
Does it make sense to other
Yeah, if
people?
it makes sense, don't put a comment. That's usually
Don't put a
hard.
comment in.
Yeah.
So that is the core principle of what is sometimes known as clean code, and that's the title of Bob Martin's book, was Clean Code. And comments would suggest that if you have to write a comment next to it, then the code doesn't describe itself very well. So maybe you should rename your variables. Maybe you should refactor the code so that you're grouping it in a more understandable way. And there are other sort of smells in code that you can get from this. Are you aware of the phrase code smell? Have you heard that before?
Sort of, but you know.
Okay, so I'll give you what, as I understand code smell,
Right,
because
right.
again, there's no solid definition to this. So a code smell is something about code that you look at it and you think, oh, that's a bit scary. It's a bit smelly. Doesn't mean it's bad. It might be that way for a reason. But if it smells, you should probably think about improving it. So, for example, if your file is 5,000 lines long, that's a smell.
Yeah.
That's a smell. If your class has 5,000 lines in it, that smells a bit. If you find that you have massive arrow-shaped if statements, that's probably a smell. Why are they arrow-shaped? Why can't you collapse those clauses? Those sorts of things, you might be able to refactor those out. And there are lots of code smells, and they're appropriate to every language. I've seen some in Godot as well, which are quite different. I'm not sure if there are in Unreal because of the block nature of the language.
Yeah.
Some might argue, and I apologize to those who code in C++, so C++ is a code smell. some might argue. But they're just little things that you might look at, like variables that are only one character, or variables that aren't proper names. So, for example, you might put a member variable that people use as RB for rigid body. Well, that's a bit of a standard, but wouldn't it be better to say rigid body? So it reads off the page more like text, like you read in a story, because that's where you're trying to get to. Now, the times when I would use comments is when you're doing something that's a bit weird.
Yeah.
And you might be forced to do something that's a bit weird because there's no better way, or because the engine that you're using or the framework that you've chosen forces you to do that weird thing. And in those cases, stick a comment, and fair enough. But the reason I have a problem with comments is that the code often keeps up to date.
Yeah.
The comments don't. And unless you are creating an API for someone else to use that's external to your company and they don't see the code, having comments on every single method is largely a waste.
Yeah.
So I've seen huge Java code bases where you'd have something like get height, and it says get height, and then the comment says get the height, and well, thanks, that's great. And then underneath you'll have one that says set height, and it would say set the height.
Okay, yeah, no, that
right.
You see, with that, I think you start spending too much time on comments, which is a problem.
And it's dogma. It's just dogma. It's just what people do.
Yeah.
And as far as code formatting is concerned, you'll find a lot of people get upset online about whether or not they use tabs or spaces or little squiggly, squirrely parentheses on the same line as the method operator. Those things aren't important. What's important is that you get an auto formatter that you like, and so that all your code looks the same.
Yes.
And then you agree that on the project. So for everyone on the project, they're all using the same code formatter. And they're free, they're easy to use. Use one. It's just a barrier. Code that's weirdly formatted is just a barrier for you to understand what it's doing. So use code formatters. Easy peasy.
Yeah. I mean, going with what you would use comments for, I'd also, at least for Unity, this is how we use it for our team. Usually when I'm working on something, the art assets haven't been put in yet, so I'm just working purely programming, and I'm using programmer art. It looks god awful, but that doesn't matter. But the point is that I'll put a comment and I'll try and make it so it's helpful for whoever's animating or whoever's doing the art, so they know where the animation should play. It really saves time for them. I mean, I think that's also going with the code as a craft. I think that is also really important, so people know where to place things that haven't come in yet.
So those, I would call those to-dos, where you do a capital T-O-D-O. And to-dos are different because they are signposts to work that is about to come. So they're not exclamation comments, but they are important. That's a good shout. Yeah, definitely. Another little trick you can do with to-dos, if you're working on a team with more than one person, rather than just putting to-do, which isn't really that useful, when you write the to-do, put a 4-character name in there, which is the first 2 letters of your first name with the first 2 letters of your surname. So for me, I'm Rob Lang, so it would be Roller. So it would say to-do, Roller. So not only is the comment saying who's going to do it, it's who's raised it, who says this needs to be done. So you can see down through a whole load of comments. You can see loads of to-dos in here for things that need fixing, but not now. Quite reasonable to do, but it will have those 4 little characters, which will save you time in trying to work out why it was there in the first place.
Yeah.
So, and also, everyone now, I recommend in the chat quietly work out what your 4 letters are, because quite often they're quite funny. Tom Whalen's is Toey, for example.
Yeah,
It makes me
mine almost sounds like MOBA.
Yours is MOBA.
Almost.
Awesome.
It's almost. It's Mobu, I think. Mobu.
Oh yeah, would you? Marbu. Marbu is pretty good.
It sounds like some sort of cocktail.
It does. Yeah. Yeah. And I see that Snooty, hi there, good to see you. User to do's 6 months later. Yeah, that you just need a process for picking them up every so often. A to do shouldn't be things that are desperate. They should be just things like, oh, this is horrible. Let's
Yeah,
fix this up.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's code as a craft. It's a massive topic. I could go on for hours. I do for quite a lot of my day. I'm spending a lot of my time looking at code, thinking, "This is nasty. Who wrote this? Oh, it's me. Oh, better
Oh,
fix it."
yeah, yeah. That's fun. I love when you're like, oh, this code's so awful. Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
But
just
then,
and
but then it's
especially when it's your
also
own.
it's really great. Like seeing the code like that you've done 6 months ago, and you're like, that's all disastrous. But now my
Yeah.
code's like it's more crafted. There you go.
Well, indeed, yeah, it's code should evolve.
Yes.
Although it's a little bit different when you're coding games because your hard deadline is release, and for many games, it doesn't. Apart from perhaps a patch release, it doesn't necessarily need to be an eternal game. Unlike some of these games as a service that we're having now, where they
Yes.
seem to go on forever and ever. For most of the people in here, we can't afford to do that. We want to write other games. We want to do new things. So you're going to have a hard deadline,
Mm.
like in a jam. If I was in a jam, my code craft would be out the window.
Yeah.
I'd
No.
just be hammering it out. I'd create the worst bugs you've ever seen because the context is you've got a very short amount of time,
Yeah.
and getting finished is more important than maintaining it over a year.
Hmm.
But if your code's a little larger than that, if you are going to be maintaining it over a long period of time, then it's worth thinking about trying to look after your code, and it will look
Yes.
after you.
Yes. Now I'm curious. This is out, away from what we're just talking about. I'm curious. What inspired Klomper?
Well, it's quite easy to say really because every Sunday night, the one bit of gaming I do now is with friends of mine.
Mm.
One is in California now,
Right.
and the other one is about 3 miles away. It's horrendous, all the way over there in another bit of Reading.
Yes.
And we get together on a Sunday, and we like to play games where we can work together. We're
Mm.
not shooting each other.
Yes.
We could shoot each other, but it gets old pretty fast. We tend to, for example, Grand Theft Auto Online. At the end of a mission, we tend to shoot each other just because you
Just
do.
because you
You've
can.
just
Yeah.
banked your cash, so you shoot each other. We like to play games where you work together, and we like to play things that we're against the environment. We
Yeah.
also,
Same.
of a Sunday, because it's Sunday night. Yeah, you're tired. You got work the next day. You got stuff to do, and so some nights you want to. Some people want to be doing something that's a bit more exciting, and then some evenings you just want to bimble about really.
Yeah.
And I wanted to create a game where we could all have an individual role. We could play together and have an individual role, a bit like you would on a game like Raft, for example, where
Yeah.
someone always ends up being the farmer, someone always ends up repairing the thing, and someone's looking out for whatever islands. You end up
Mhm.
in these roles that sort of come about naturally, and you can swap between them. It's not like you're in the character, you're the sniper now, you're the tank now. It's not quite like that, but you fit into these roles, and uh, you can the game is really a substrate on which to grow banter and mocking each other
Yeah.
for 2 hours,
Yeah.
which I think that's a lot
That.
when you're
Yeah.
multiplaying with your friends. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
uh, and I wanted to create a game that we could play.
Yeah.
It's that selfish.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really is. I just wanted a game because I don't feel that I'm going to make much money from it. It will go on Steam. I will sell it because I want the experience of marketing it and pushing it out. And what you do is I want to know that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't. Um, I don't think I wouldn't be able to give up my day job.
Yeah. No.
I imagine it would be possible if I created a number of fun games over a long period of time, and they'd have a long tail. Together 20, 30 games might add up to an income. But I'm a lead web developer. I'm towards the top of my tree, so it would be quite a large salary cut for me to go indie.
Yeah.
Um, so and I kind of like it as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's filthy, but I like it.
Mhm.
So that's where the inspiration came from. It came from the idea of forcing people into very specific roles,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
then how do you work back from that?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you've played it with your friends. There's a game called Barotrauma. It's a submarine survival game. It's quite a little bit advanced. But it is absolutely hilarious.
You say the name of the game again for me, please, Matt.
Barotrauma, Baro, and then trauma.
I see. It's in barometric. Okay, cool.
It's really great.
Cool. I got that.
Yeah.
That's the top tip. Yeah. So we like those. We also like Deep Rock Galactic because you have to work together.
That's a good one too. Yeah.
But you always end up with some idiot that disappears off ahead. It's normally me.
Yeah.
I'm normally the scout.
Yeah.
So, thanks for the link there, Mr. Live. That's great.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the sort of game we like to play on a Sunday. So, why not make a game that you want to play? I'd say.
Yeah, that's the sort of game that I would want to work on eventually. You know, right now we're making our way up to 3D in our next project, and then I think we're gonna start. We'll probably do one more project, and then for our third project, it will probably be a multiplayer-like thing, which I think would be, you know, really really fun to play with your friends and stuff.
Yeah.
And someone actually said, I want the same experience with my own game Treasured. What is marketing in Steam like? Now I'd say marketing for us has gone terribly. Like you don't really think how much marketing you really need to do until you've released it, and then you're like, but you know, I think if you execute it correctly, you can be pretty successful. But you know, that's just something you learn over time. Again, you know, be easy on yourself. It's your first game, so don't like bully yourself if it hasn't gone to plan too much. But yeah, no, going on Steam, it's a pretty different experience. It suddenly makes you feel a bit more like you've really made it, sort of thing, even if you haven't necessarily made it. Like especially when it got to getting the Xbox dev kits a couple months ago, that was probably one of the coolest experiences of my life. You know, seeing those, like I heard the box outside my door and I was like, what is that? It's like a shuffling, and then I came out and it's just this big box and it's just 2 Xboxes that I can develop games for, and that was when I was like, wow, it's astonishing. It's crazy.
That's very cool. Getting an Xbox dev kit.
Oh yeah, no, they give you 2, so it's like, I don't know why they give you 2, but you know, I've got 2, so you know, it's fantastic. Thoughts on boycotting Steam, says Tom.
I'm a fan of Tom's, and I know that he created his own downloader, and I think there's a lot of benefit to that.
Yes.
However, I'm quite lazy.
Yeah.
And I don't want to write my own downloader. If someone can download stuff for me, then that's fine.
Yeah.
I know they take a cut, and that's okay. I'm not really doing it for the money, so I find it difficult to justify spending time on a downloader. That feels more like work than fun.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. I think don't draw when it's especially when it's your first game. Don't like think of it simply for, hey, I want to make money, because you know that's the worst thing to think of, because when it comes to actually releasing it, you are gonna plummet because you're not gonna make much money on your first release. You know, if you do, then you're 1 in a billion, because even the biggest developers haven't, you know, their first game isn't their best. You know, I mean, I think the only real people that I can think of is the person that made Undertale, Toby Fox. You know, that was his first game and that went viral, but you know, I think, you know, that's just a really really slim chance, and don't put your money on a tiny chance like that. Put your money on the big chances, because you know, then you know that's probably quite likely. Set yourself low expectations, someone says. Yeah.
Yeah, and my expectation is that Steam will just make it a lot easier for me to distribute the game
Yes.
to me and my three
Yeah, yeah,
friends
yeah.
to make sure that we can all run on the same version. And I hope others will do. I also like to have a play with marketing. I know it sounds awful. Oh, he's gonna have a play with marketing. I don't really know what I'm doing marketing wise. I've watched quite a lot of GDC talks, so I have a sense of it, and I know how to market things that aren't games. But games are quite weird.
Yeah, they're
It's
different.
in that developers for games are very close to the public, whereas in my day job, it's very rare that anyone from the public would realize that I'm coding the system that they use day in, day out,
Mm-hmm.
or I coded the system that they're using the data to make decisions on. They don't really that there's not that kind of interchange between us. It's very rare to get that. So, but with games, it is because people are passionate about spending their spare time playing games. So that's understandable that they want to know more about the developer that's doing it.
Yes.
So that's something I'm prepared for, but it will be different,
Yeah, yeah.
very different.
Yeah, someone, I saw this the other day as well. The guys who made Fall Guys made 130 games before
Yeah,
Fall Guys was released, and that's astonishing. I mean, 130 games before, and I think they must have made it pretty well because they have 200 employees. I mean,
yeah,
they were fine. I think looking at Fall Guys and thinking you can make the next Fall Guys is, I don't want to break it to you too hard, but it's very, very unlikely. If you're a solo developer and you're trying to make a 60-player networked game, well, good luck testing it as well. I don't know how you test a 60-player
yeah.
game on your own. Yeah.
Well, I make a 50,000 player game, so during the day, if you want to think of it that way, with a number of concurrent connections. So you can get enough people to connect to a system pretty well enough, I think, if you really want to.
Yeah,
So
but it's just more of a
so that's yeah, it's non-trivial, but you're absolutely right. There is a lot of luck involved, and there are great games that just disappear, and I'm prepared for that because I wrote a free science fiction pencil and paper role-playing game, which most people never have heard of,
yeah.
but it's been online since 1996. So I know that a bunch of people download it, and I get donations now and again from people who like it. But at the same time, I'm happy I made it. It's a
Yeah.
Magnus opus, a magnum opus. It's a great work that I can be proud of, and then move on to the next thing. And that's what I hope Clomper will be.
Hmm.
And I saw Snooty asked what my timescale was. I I did a rough plan given originally it was summer 2021, but then the global pandemic has made lots of things more complicated. So late 2021, I should think for beta.
Awesome.
And when I say beta, I mean beta testing with a closed group of people,
Yes.
not I've actually released it and I'm just calling it beta so I can somehow pretend that there aren't bugs in it,
Yes.
which annoys me.
Yeah. And Joe says his dream job is lead web development. So
All right. Well, good luck. Just keep building websites. That's all I can say. Just don't stop. Yeah, it's a long time to go. So does anyone have any questions at all?
yes.
I know we're coming right to the
Yeah,
end.
that this has actually turned out perfectly with the normal time scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting ready for launch as well.
Oh, I knew someone would ask about having a Discord server. Garrett, why would I need to make my own Discord server when I'm on everyone else's Discord server? the the Discord thing is with Discord servers, as you well know, Matt, is that they take a lot of time and effort to manage and maintain. And there are some great Discord servers that I'm on. In fact, a lot of the people in the chat now all have great Discord servers, and yours, Matt. The many that you seem to run, and that I don't have any extra time, particularly during the day,
Yeah.
to really drive one forward.
Mhm.
Daniel Lochner's his is fantastic. He will run Every so often he'll run competitions, which are a great laugh. I want to do that. If I'm going to do a Discord server, I'd want it to do it as well as Daniel runs his, or as fun as Tom's. But I can't do that.
Yeah.
So rather than wait until I have time to be able to do it, and until then, I will just be a Discord server sort of hobo, going from server to server,
Yeah.
dropping in, causing problems, and then leaving again. Thanks for the question, Garrett. I appreciate that.
Will you make an ASMR channel anytime soon? Asking for a friend.
I've been asked to make all sorts of saucy channels, we could say, given my voice, which I never really thought about until I started making YouTube videos.
You know, I think it's a British trait, to be honest. That's the issue. You see,
Yeah.
when you're British, you tend to have a lot of people going, "Wow, your voice is crazy good." I'm like, if I just walk down to the shop, everyone sounds the same.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Absolutely, and I will try to use "fix it" in my videos. Or I'll try and do one of those motivational ones, which just goes, "Fix it. You can fix it. You're great.
No, just do a
You can do this. Just fix it. It's just code."
Just do a 20-second video, and you just do that.
Yeah.
And then boom.
I do say it a lot during the day. I don't have any quotes to tell you, I'm afraid, Mr. Lives. I think I've used up all my good ones.
All of Rob's future comments on our videos will just be "fix it."
Yeah, I look forward to it. Yeah, I could do an ASMR video
Oh
of
no!
fix it.
Next time I do a Twitch stream and there's a bug,
Yeah.
I'll see you in chat
will be
saying
there.
"fix it," and I'll be like, "No!"
Fix it. Best done in capitals as well. Not because we're shouting, just because we're forceful. Just because you will fix it. Get the motivation.
We break it, you fix it.
So I'm going to use one of my own questions.
Oh god.
Because the chats, they've all gone a little bit wacky, I'll be honest.
They're going crazy about fixing it.
So I'm going to pick one of mine. Let's do that one, which is, assuming unlimited time and money, what would be my dream game to make?
Ooh.
So I think you might have answered this before, Matt. You go first.
What did I say last time? I don't even remember. If I was to say now, it'd be AAA, photorealistic, with like multiplayer, like what the games we just were talking about earlier. I think that would
like
be
a
crazy
GTA
good.
type thing.
Like imagine a AAA scale of something like, you know, one of those games, and it's just, that'd be crazy good. There's so much that you could do with it. I don't know what the game would be about. I don't know. It'd probably be about like flying planes. I don't know. That could be interesting.
That'd be cool. I like flying planes. That'd be great fun.
Yeah, and then
Mine would be one called Humble Borrow Motorcar, which would be a take on Grand Theft Auto, except all the cars are a bit naff. You don't actually steal them, you just borrow them. And they're all sort of old-fashioned motor cars, but sort of a low poly, fixing all the things that annoy me about Grand Theft Auto Online, and allowing people to PvE completely, for example, and actually be gangsters rather than bizarre spacemen. So that's and be less military and more like a real but slightly odd low poly world. So that's one. So I think Humble Borrow Motorcar has got some legs. You know, you open the car door and you say, "Excuse me, may I just borrow your car, please? I need to deliver this packet of medicine across town." And they say, "Oh, well, of course, yes. No problem. Have my motor car."
HBM doesn't quite have the same ring as GTA. Technically
Only because people aren't used to it, Snooty. You wait. People will be talking about HBM long after GTA is gone.
So it's a game of negotiation. No, I don't think it's a game of negotiation. It's a forceful
borrowing.
No, they don't
get choice.
It's forceful borrowing.
It's extremely polite and
in a forceful manner. Fix it.
Grand Theft Auto already is British. It's made in Scotland. Although I apologise to any independents favouring Scots in the chat. I do appreciate it. It is a different nation.
I haven't been present at any of your streams, but do you actually get anything done? If so, how? The one stream I did was relatively unproductive. I think I got a fair amount done last time. I streamed for about an hour or so. I think I did a decent amount. I mean, I'm getting back into it probably tomorrow or the day after. But yeah, I mean, I think I've been doing streaming for quite a while before YouTube. Before YouTube, I actually did a year of Twitch, so I sort of have the grasp of it, and reading chat is sort of really easy for me. I just glance and I already know what they're saying. So I don't know. I think it's something that you slowly sort of build up over time. I think you spent too much time talking to the chat. Yeah, if I were you, I mean, I dedicate times to when I talk to the chat, like, properly, and I'll glance back every so often. I try not to get too invested into it to the point where it impacts my work. I always set one goal for my stream, like I have to do A, and I often only stream for 1 hour. Exactly. Yeah, I try and set a goal for my stream, and then if I've done that goal by the end, that's done. If I don't, going back to being easy on yourself, that's fine. I'll continue it in the next stream or the next day.
Streaming terrifies the life out of me. The way I code is quite random. I watched myself code once, and because I recorded some stuff as a training thing for co-workers, and I look back at what I was doing. Oh my goodness me! The cursor was up and down the screen at random. I was half finishing one line of code and jumping onto another. I don't think anyone needs to watch that.
Yeah.
And then lots of googling. It's scary. I'm with you, Tom. It's scary, and I can't imagine me doing it. Because again, it's at 6:15. I don't look this beautiful at 6:15. I've had to manicure myself to get this beautiful. Normally, I'm just this horrible, ragged old man. It's horrible.
Yeah, Snutty just said that the best is all the backseat programmers, and actually, I'd go against that. Like, I do like it to a certain extent. It is quite nice, but I think I like having my own control. I think it's really weird when someone is telling you about how to code something when you're like openly figuring it out. I mean, I don't mind it, I suppose, but I've sort of got used to it now. Like, I'll glance back and someone's giving me a solution, and I'm like, oh, okay then. It's tough, but I do enjoy I do enjoy the whole streaming process. I think it's really enjoyable. Just sort of, you get really connected with not only your viewers, but also for Indie Dev Chat. I'm talking to you, and I love talking to developers and stuff. It's my favorite thing to do in life, and I not even like it. It's more fun for me than game development, and that goes to show how high I put Indie Dev Chat. Really, I really love it. But yeah.
As one of your regular viewers, it's weird being on it, but I do love to watch it. I won't watch this one back, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I never watch them back. I think I've watched them back a couple times, but I don't really it's a bit weird. It's really strange hearing my voice again, but like I don't mind it if I was editing a video, that's fine, but like it's something different about like a live stream. You can't change it. It's been done. Like, everyone's heard you do something, and I don't know. I don't really mind it though, to be fair. I mean, I don't really think about it.
That's the best thing. Just don't think about it. Just, if you thought about it, you might start double thinking what you're thinking, and then not start thinking the thing, and then you stop thinking, and you don't want that. That would be bad.
Yes. Well, it's an hour and 10 minutes, so we need to. We should wrap it up, because people, VOD viewers are gonna kill us. They'll get out their pitchforks. They'll be like, an hour and 10 minutes. But yes, thank you so much, Rob, for taking the time out of your day to come onto the show. And I think it'd be great to have you on again. Hopefully in the next few months we'll have you on, or next few weeks, whatever happens. If I'm in a dire situation, I need an emergency guest, I could pick you, or I could pick anyone else. So I might pick you. But yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic having you on. It's great having frequent chatters on the Indie Dev Chat. I think it's fantastic. It's so interesting because you sort of know the person, but you don't know the person. It's quite interesting.
Yeah,
I was very excited for this one because you've really made a big influence on the podcast. So it's been really great seeing you these past few weeks, just popping up in the chat. I'm like, oh, fantastic! Yeah, it's great.
With all my questions, my endless questions.
Well, it keeps the stream going. I don't lose. Like, I don't stop.
Well, it's hard enough to keep thinking up new questions and different questions and then rephrasing them depending on the guest. So yeah, I get it's a difficult job you do. And I thank you very much for having me on. I've been quite humbled to be asked. And thanks for everyone in the chat. You guys have been awesome.
Yeah, the chat, you've been crazy. And remember, everyone. Rob, would you like to say your phrase?
Fix it.
Exactly.
Just fix it. Fix it. There you go.
There we go.
Job
Fix
done.
it, guys. All right. Well, yeah. See you next week, Wednesday, where I'm actually talking to another Rob. And what are the chances of that?
We're breeding. It's that simple.
Yeah. All right. Well, Rob, thanks so much for coming on, and thanks for the chat for being fantastic. And yeah, I'll see you all next week. All right. See you later.
Bye bye.
Bonk.